All right, get ready to dive into something pretty fascinating today, because we're about to explore the world of Mozart, brainwaves, and maybe even solve a little mystery along the way.
Sounds intriguing.
It is, really.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Mozart K448 effect, this idea that listening to a specific Mozart sonata might actually reduce epileptic seizures.
Yeah, I've heard about this. It's been making some headlines.
It has. It's one of those things that sounds almost too good to be true, like some
Yeah.
kind of, musical miracle cure. But
Yeah.
there's actually a new study out that takes this idea from, oh, that's interesting, to, wow, there might be something here.
Right. It's moving from just anecdotal evidence to actual scientific backing.
Exactly. So no more just, old wives' tales about soothing melodies. We're talking hard science, brain imaging, the real deal.
Yes, and what's so fascinating is that this new study used some seriously cutting-edge technology to really look at what's happening in the brain.
Okay, so what did they DO in this study? Paint the picture for us.
So they used a technique called intracranial EEG.
Intracranial EEG. Now that sounds intimidating.
It's a mouthful, I know. It stands for electroencephalogram, but basically it lets them measure electrical activity directly from the brain using these implanted electrodes.
Wow, so they're really getting in there. But why go to all that trouble? What's the advantage of that over, say, just, playing someone Mozart and saying, how do you feel?
You're right, there are simpler ways to go about it, but the beauty of intracranial EEG is its precision. It gives us this incredibly detailed look at brain activity, especially the kinds of irregular patterns associated with epilepsy. And that's exactly what they were looking for. Did listening to Mozart actually change those patterns in any way?
Got it. So it's like they're looking for those blips on the radar that say epilepsy and then seeing if Mozart can, smooth them out.
Exactly. And here's the really interesting part. They found that just listening to Mozart's sonata for two pianos in D major, that's also known as K448, even for a short burst, like 30 seconds, was linked to a decrease in those telltale brainwave patterns.
Wait, really? Just 30 seconds of Mozart and things calm down in the brain. That's wild.
I know, it sounds almost too good to be true, but here's the thing. It wasn't just any nice music that did the trick. The researchers wanted to make sure it was really Mozart's K448 that was causing the effect, so they tested a bunch of other things too.
Like what? Barry Manilow, polka music.
Not quite. Think more along the lines of other pieces by Mozart, other classical music. They even got music from other genres that had similar acoustic qualities to K448, kind of like musical doppelgangers.
Wow, that's clever.
Right. They really wanted to pinpoint what made K448 special. And here's the catch. None of the other music, not even the other Mozart, had the same effect on those epileptic brainwave patterns.
Wow, so there really is something unique about this one sonata. But musically speaking, what is it? What's the secret ingredient?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's what those researchers are really trying to untangle.
Yeah, I bet.
So they really dug deep into the musical structure of K448 and found that it's built on these really distinct, contrasting melodic themes, and that might be the key to all of this.
Interesting. Contrasting themes. Okay, so walk me through that. I mean, how could that possibly affect something as complex as brain activity, let alone something like epilepsy?
Think of it this way. Imagine your brain is trying to predict what's coming next in the music, like it's following along with the melody. But K448, with its contrasting themes, keeps throwing in these unexpected twists and turns.
So it's like a little mental workout for your brain. It keeps you on your toes.
Exactly. And what's even more fascinating is that the study suggests this mental workout might be especially noticeable in areas of the brain that handle how we process emotions.
Now that is really interesting. Okay, so I get how unexpected changes in music might, grab your attention or even surprise you. But we're talking about Mozart here, not exactly, death metal.
Yeah.
How does emotional processing fit into all of this? Like, what did the study actually show was happening in the brain?
You're asking all the right questions. It's one of the most intriguing things about this whole study. So they found this decrease in those epileptic brainwave patterns we talked about while people were listening to K448, and that decrease, it was most pronounced in the regions of the brain that are associated with processing emotions.
So it's almost like Mozart is doing a little rearranging up there, helping those brain regions work together a little more smoothly.
That's a great way to put it. It's like he's conducting a little symphony in your brain. We know music can evoke strong emotions. We've all felt those chills during a powerful song, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But this study suggests there might be a much deeper connection between how our brains process music, how we feel emotions, and even how something like epilepsy might develop in the first place.
Whoa, okay. Now my mind is officially blown. We're talking about listening to music as a potential way to influence something as complex as epilepsy. This is huge.
It really is remarkable, and it has the potential to change how we think about both music and the brain.
This has been incredible. I, for one, am completely hooked, and I'm sure you are too. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll explore what this all means for the future. Could listening to Mozart actually become a tool for treating epilepsy? We'll tackle that question and more right after this. And we're back, diving even deeper into the fascinating world of Mozart, epilepsy, and the incredible power of music.
It's amazing what we're learning about the brain.
It really is. Before the break, we were blown away by this idea that simply listening to Mozart's K448 Sonata could actually have a real, measurable impact on brain activity related to epilepsy.
And a measurable impact on those specific brainwave patterns, too.
Right. It's not just like a feeling or a mood boost. It's something really happening in there.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, could we actually use this knowledge to help people with epilepsy?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Could Mozart become part of the treatment toolkit?
Well, it's still very early days. This study is groundbreaking, don't get me wrong, but it's really just the tip of the iceberg. Think of it like a really complicated puzzle. This is a big piece, sure, but we still have a lot more to figure out.
So not ditching those meds just yet.
Probably not. But it certainly opens up a whole world of possibilities. Like, what about other kinds of music? Could they have similar benefits?
Or what about other conditions besides epilepsy? Could this kind of musical therapy work for other things too?
Those are all fantastic questions, and that's what makes this research so exciting. It's like we've opened a door to a whole new way of thinking about the brain and how it interacts with music.
It's kind of blowing my mind, to be honest.
Mine too. But remember that connection we talked about earlier? The one between K448, emotional processing, and epilepsy. That might hold the key to answering some of these questions.
Right, that keeps coming up, and for good reason. It's one thing to say music affects our emotions. I mean, we all know that feeling of getting chills from a powerful song. But this feels different. Are you saying there's like a deeper link between how our brains experience music emotionally and how epilepsy actually works?
You got it. We know that emotional responses involve all these complex interactions in different parts of the brain, right? Well, this research suggests that maybe, just maybe, K448 is somehow tapping into those very circuits, influencing how they communicate with each other.
So instead of just triggering a feeling like happy or sad, it's like Mozart is working behind the scenes, almost like, I don't know, like a conductor, getting those brain regions to work together in a more harmonious way.
Now, that is a fantastic analogy. You're exactly right. And it begs another question. Could we use this link, this connection between music, emotion, and the brain to help with other things? Things like anxiety or depression, which also involve how we regulate our emotions.
You know, that reminds me, I was reading about music therapy being used for conditions like that, and it's showing some real promise. Do you think that's what's going on there too? The music's literally changing how our brains are dealing with emotions.
It's certainly possible. This research on K448 and epilepsy really opens up a whole new avenue for exploring the potential of music as therapy in ways we hadn't even thought of before.
It's like we've stumbled upon this hidden pathway in the brain, and now we have to figure out where it leads and what other secrets it might hold.
Precisely. And remember that fancy intracranial EEG we talked about earlier?
How could I forget?
Well, that technology is going to be crucial going forward. It's going to help us unlock these secrets because by providing us with such a precise view of what's happening in the brain in real time, we can start to really map out how different types of music, not just K448, affect different parts of the brain.
That is so cool. So we're not just talking about using music to manage symptoms, but potentially even getting a better grasp on the root causes of these conditions, like really understanding them on a deeper level.
You got it. This research has the potential to revolutionize how we approach neurological conditions as a whole. Imagine a world where music isn't just something we enjoy, but a powerful tool for understanding and even healing the brain.
Okay, now that is a future I can get behind. But before we get too carried away, let's rewind a little. Remember a few years back when everyone was talking about the Mozart effect, this idea that listening to classical music could make you smarter.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. It was everywhere. Parents were playing Mozart for their babies, hoping to give them a little intellectual edge.
Exactly. It was like the must-have baby shower gift, a Mozart CD. But if I recall correctly, there was also a lot of back and forth about whether that whole Mozart effect was legit or just hype. It was, wasn't it? It really felt like everyone was jumping on that bandwagon for a while. But yeah, then the hype kind of fizzled out.
Right, because a lot of those early studies couldn't be replicated. It turned out to be a lot more complicated than just saying Mozart makes you smarter.
Exactly. So where does that leave us now? With this new research on K448 and epilepsy, is there a connection? Could both of these things, the Mozart effect and this epilepsy study, be tapping into some real power of Mozart's music to influence our brains?
That's a great question, and it's something that researchers are really interested in exploring further. While that original idea of a general Mozart effect on intelligence might have been a bit overblown, this new research suggests that Mozart's K448 in particular could be doing something really specific and measurable in the brain.
So maybe those researchers were onto something, but they were looking for it in the wrong way. Instead of a broad boost in intelligence, maybe it's about how certain types of music, like K448, can actually interact with very specific brain circuits.
That's a really interesting way to think about it, and it just highlights how much we still don't understand about the brain and the complex ways that music can affect it. But with amazing tools like intracranial EEG, we're starting to peel back those layers and really see what's happening in there.
It's pretty incredible when you think about it. I mean, if something like K448 can have this kind of impact on a complex condition like epilepsy, what else is music capable of? What other hidden potential might there be? Could we be on the verge of, like, a whole new era of music therapy, where doctors are prescribing playlists tailored to specific conditions?
It might sound like science fiction, but it's not as far-fetched as you might think. We're already seeing some really promising results with things like using music to help Parkinson's patients with motor control, or even stroke patients who are relearning how to speak.
Wow, really? I hadn't heard about that. That's amazing.
It is, and this research on K448 just adds another layer of possibility to what we might be able to achieve. It's like this thing that we connect with on such a deep emotional level, music, could actually hold the key to new treatments and therapies for some of the most challenging conditions we face.
It really makes you appreciate music in a whole new way, doesn't it? It's not just something nice to listen to. It's a force. It can move us, it can heal us, and maybe it can even help us understand the mysteries of our own minds.
Beautifully said. And who knows what other incredible discoveries are waiting for us in the world of music and neuroscience? This field is bursting with potential, and I have a feeling that what we've learned about Mozart's K448 today is just the tip of the iceberg.
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, for all of you listening out there, next time you put on your headphones, remember, you're not just listening to music, you're engaging in a powerful form of brain stimulation. And maybe you'll even feel a little smarter, a little more relaxed, a little more connected to that incredible symphony that's always playing inside your own head.
Maybe it'll spark a question or inspire a whole new generation of neuroscientists to unlock even more of music's incredible potential.
I love that thought. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Until next time, keep those minds curious and keep the music playing.